What happened in Fiji, Simon?
Fiji with Meghan, well, that was really the only big tour it is the only big tour they did before Archie was born. So this was a few months after their wedding in 2018. Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Tonga. It was an epic trip, but in hindsight, now everything makes sense. The sort of hostility towards the British media and how he was treating us. I don't expect anybody to feel sympathy, but it was a bit weird compared to the Harry that I knew from previous trips. It was quite hostile.
All right, this story is bringing back one of the most talked about moments from Meghan's early royal days, the Fiji market incident. Now, at the time, it seemed like a tense but isolated moment during a royal tour. But years later, some royal commentators and journalists are now looking back at that event and saying, that was the first real warning sign. In fact, one observer described it as Meghan's nightmare Fiji market drama and claimed it revealed deeper issues that would later explode publicly. So what actually happened in Fiji? And why are people suddenly treating it like a turning point in the Harry and Meghan story? Let's break it down. Back in 2018, during Harry and Meghan's royal tour of the South Pacific, Meghan visited a market in Fiji where local women were gathered to meet her. But the visit ended abruptly. Reports at the time suggested there were concerns involving crowd management, security, and overall organization.
And certainly no chats, off-the-record chats. So there was one day in this epic tour that was specifically Meghan's day for women's education, empowerment, entrepreneurs, and I was at the engagement in the market in Suva, which was hot, but it wasn't chaos, and there was a clear route for Meghan to take there to meet all of these female businesses that she wanted to meet. And it was supposed to last half an hour, 40 minutes, and it lasted about 15, if that, because at some point as she was meeting people, the whole atmosphere changed in the royal party. It came from Meghan, I believe, and everything went into warp drive. And my cameraman, Rui, was the official British TV cameraman, the pool cameraman for that event. We got footage of the press officers sort of pushing him back. You've got to get back, you've got to get back. Everything went into fast forward. Meghan goes in, gets into a car. She walks past all these people who've lined up, all these women who've lined up for hours to tell her about their business. Don't get to meet her. The woman with the gift at the end, she zooms past. It was really weird. And afterwards, the press officers and the staff were spinning it as a security issue. Well, it wasn't. If there had been any sort of security issue, the Scotland Yard detectives wouldn't have allowed the event to start. Health issue, I'm not sure, about that. Was it, one of the stories is that Meghan was unhappy that there was a charity there that she used to be involved with but wasn't involved with anymore, and that just annoyed her. It was a really weird engagement. That wasn't an engagement really, and the people who had been prepared for weeks to meet the newest member of the royal family just saw her zoom by.
It's one of the most kind of more infamous kind of royal things they'll ask you. Yeah. What did that mean for the tour though? Because that was a big, long, grueling tour. You travel around the world to see these superstars. What did that mean for the tour? Well,
I mean, it was an incredible story, although we didn't know why. I mean, I think we know why now. I think it probably was to do with that charity. I've really felt sorry for the people who wanted to meet her, and at that point Meghan was the superstar, the new superstar of the British royal family, and all they saw was that. For us, it was a story. For the palace staff, it was a nightmare. I mean, they were very upset. They didn't know what had just happened, and were trying to spin 5 different versions of what we had all just seen. And it sort of torpedoed her own day in the diary. That was specifically was the Women's Education Empowerment Day. So with hindsight, was that, does everything now make sense? And was that, Meghan's, behaviour on that day, was that, a true reflection. It didn't look good. It was not what a royal visit's all about. And you don't see. I never saw the Queen do that. You couldn't imagine.
You must have had happier royal stories then. There must be happier times or trips abroad that you've been with the royals that you've had better situations.
Yeah, I mean, just to contrast it, the royals will know who they're going to meet, how long it's supposed to take, sort of, and which order it's going to happen in, and then it broadly happens. So that's what you saw with the late Queen, and you see with Charles will take longer. But yeah, I mean, the royal trips that with the Queen, which really stand out, were actually two places she had wanted to go for years and years and years. She went to Bergen-Belsen, which was the camp that the British liberated in World War II.
Meghan reportedly left earlier than expected, and almost immediately, speculation started flying online. Some reports framed it as a security issue. Others suggested tension behind the scenes. And some commentators believed the situation reflected growing pressure around Meghan's royal role. Now importantly, there was never one universally confirmed explanation for exactly what happened. But the moment became symbolic. What's interesting is how differently this moment is viewed today compared to back then. At the time, many people saw it as a stressful royal tour moment, nothing more. But after everything that happened later, the royal exit, the interviews, the Netflix series, the public criticism of palace life, people started looking backward and reinterpreting earlier events. And that's where this idea comes from, that the Fiji incident was somehow a preview of deeper tensions already building behind the scenes. Critics argue it showed Meghan struggling with royal pressures early on.
So covering that visit to Germany was very special. And also in 2011, her trip to our nearest neighbour, the Republic of Ireland, which she had longed to go to for many, many years, partly to visit the racehorses, but also because she wanted to go there. And she'd never been allowed to go there because of security reasons, but finally in 2011 she did. And she began her speech in Dublin Castle, which is full of very difficult history, but obviously between the UK and the Republic. But she began her speech in Gaelic, and I mean, actually thinking of it now is giving me goosebumps because it was a very special moment for her. And I feel so privileged to have been on that trip. Most people in the Republic, 95%, 99% of people in the Republic really valued that visit. She went to Croke Park, where the original Bloody Sunday happened, where troops for the Crown opened fire. And, to have her there was incredible. An Irish historian told me on that trip that the curse of the Irish is that we never forget, and the curse of the English is they never remember. And I've always remembered that. But that trip, I think, was, symbolically, which is what monarchy is all about, was very important.
You're totally right, and nobody else could have done that. You couldn't have sent a politician in and had the same success that the late Queen had.
No way.
Because I had family in Ireland at that time, and they still talk about it, and they say, "Oh, well, the Queen apologised." She didn't apologise,
No.
but the Irish, they were so won over by how brave she was and how incredible she was, and as I say, the speech that I'm very envious that you were there and you got to actually witness it. But
she said that we regret things that shouldn't have happened or should have happened. Not happen at all, that sort of thing. Sinn Féin boycotted that meeting, and I think they realised it was a mistake, that visit. And I think they realised that was a mistake because a couple of years later, Martin McGuinness did shake her hand on a visit to Northern Ireland. But actually that 2011 visit, Sinn Féin officially weren't represented there.
Is that your favourite visit, do you think? Your favourite tour?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very lucky boy. I've been to some amazing exotic places like Solomon Islands with William and Kate, which was absolutely magical. Solomon Islands is one of the few Commonwealth realms where the king is still king, and the Queen then was Queen of the Solomon Islands. So to have a visit from the newly married grandson of the Queen, you could see, man. I tell you what, the thing about that visit was it changed my perspective because I was quite cynical about it all until then, and cynical about certain things still. But what it means to different people even on the other side of the world, in the South Pacific, you know, the Queen was their queen. William was the grandson of their queen. And to see these people who had literally walked all day to go to this open air service, and William and Catherine turned up, I tell you what, my cynicism melted away that day because it meant so much. And who was I to say, you know, this is it's weird that you have a queen on the other side of the earth.
That distinction matters. The reason this story still gets attention years later is because people remain fascinated by the question: when did things really start going wrong? Was it media pressure? Palace culture? Family tensions? Public expectations? Everyone has a different answer. And the Fiji incident has become one small piece of a much larger narrative surrounding Harry and Meghan's time inside the monarchy. At the end of the day, the Fiji market drama may never have one clear explanation. Some see it as an ordinary security issue that got overanalyzed. Others see it as an early glimpse into deeper struggles Meghan was already facing inside royal life. But one thing is undeniable. Years later, people are still revisiting moments like this, trying to understand how the Sussex story unfolded the way it did. What do you think? Was Fiji truly a warning sign, or is hindsight changing how people remember it? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.